And welcome to Light Speaks, the podcast episode number 7. My name is Roshni Sharma Fleming, and I'm the CEO and founder of Stillfire Healing Inc. I have a very, very honored guest today in Brenda Farrugia. Welcome, Brenda.
Thank you so much for having me, Roshni. It's a pleasure.
It's always a pleasure to connect with you. And I'm really excited about our podcast today because we are in really interesting times. Today is the Sagittarius full moon. So we might be able to harness that full moon energy during our podcast today, and also to hopefully bring light to others as we ascend and vibrate higher into higher levels of consciousness. So tell us a little bit more about who you are and your background.
Okay, well, I was a corporate girl. I lived a growing up Catholic life, but I always knew deep in my heart there was more, and I never understood why people argued. I didn't understand why people discriminated. I didn't understand why there was such things as war and hatred. My mom would always tell me, I don't know how you're my daughter. I was born smiling, and I smiled at everyone and everything. Unfortunately, growing up, there was trauma in my life, and I learned some pretty bad patterns of behavior, probably because I came in to learn them, which was a blessing. So I had my own trials like everybody else. We all have our story. But the story is what helps us become who we are. Our experiences are who we are and how we learn and grow. So when I look back at the experiences I had, I think what a blessing these people came into my life and did these things to me, because over time I learned self-love. My journey was long, and some people heal very quickly, and some people have to go through a gradual learning about themselves. And I learned to be compassion and have compassion for myself and others and have patience. And I had that for everyone in the world but myself. And that's what was missing. I loved everyone. I would say have unconditional love of everything and everyone. I'm here to serve humanity. And it was only brought to my attention the last few years from my partner. He says, that's lovely, but when are you going to start loving yourself? And that really hit home for the next chapter of my healing. But my abilities have always been with me. I saw bad, scary things as a child. I saw angels as a child. I learned very young that high vibration, although I didn't know what that meant, I would call it happiness. That happiness brought in angels. And when I was sad or fearful, I would be in a whole different realm of scary beings. And I used to tell my mom, uh-oh, the house is shifting. We're going back into scary land and Red Man's coming. And she used to go, Brenda, stop talking like that. But it was my own vibration I could feel. So at a young age, I could see demonic beings jump into people. They would then change their behavior, act very mean, and then they would jump out and the person would come back and not really remembering what they did or what they said. And I realized that humanity is very compromised by, I know, sometimes outside forces, sometimes their own traumas. And I realized not to take things people did seriously because it wasn't towards me, it was their own thing. But what I then learned is to become a doormat and become anything anybody wanted me to be. And I just wanted to keep the peace. But it wasn't until later on in life where I realized it's okay to love everyone and everything, but you don't have to be a doormat. You can say, no, you're not treating me that way. I will send you love, but you're not going to treat me that way. And that was part of my healing. But it wasn't until I was about 15 years old, my dog actually broke her back running. She was a whippet and she used to run 35 miles an hour. And it was a horrible night for me because I was there when she did it, and her screaming really, deep into my soul, it hurt. We brought her to a vet and they said, there's nothing we can do. You need to bring her to Guelph University. But in long story short, they told us that they were either going to put the dog down or do a major surgery, which my dad didn't want to pay for. So it was a long weekend. It was Easter long weekend. I just sat in my room with pictures of me and her. She was my go-to. I love my dog. And I was guided by my guides to hold my hands above pictures. And they said, just see her perfect and healthy and you guys together. Don't focus on her sickness, focus on her well being. So I sat there and I just imagined her being so healthy and us hugging and playing and running. Well, it wasn't until Monday, a few days later, we got a call and they said, we can't explain it, but the dog miraculously healed. So they showed us a picture of her broken vertebrae and then her fused vertebrae. They said, bring her home. She'll never run 35 miles an hour again, but she'll be able to walk. So I just figured that was a blessing and it was a miracle. It wasn't until I went through life, I followed some of these bad patterns, probably some karma I had to go through. It wasn't until I hit rock bottom when I asked God, please show me what I meant to do because I was unhappily married. I had two beautiful children. My career was extremely busy, but my body was failing. I was having kidney issues and a lot of other bad things happening in the body. And I laid down and I just surrendered. And I said, God, obviously, I don't know what I'm doing. So either take me off the planet or show me. And it was that very day, the next day when I woke up, where life just started to open up because I surrendered. And through many different circumstances, which I could, be on here forever, but very quickly, I changed my job very quickly, like within the next day, something happened, changed my job, and started a new job. I got invited to a party with a bunch of women I didn't know with my new job. I said, yeah, I'll come. What the heck? They said, there's going to be a psychic there. And at that point, I would never do a psychic reading because I always thought they would tell me you're going to die or something. So I was terrified because I just knew things weren't right. She says, I need to talk to you at the party. I said, no, I don't do this stuff. I was just coming to chat with people. And she's like, it's about your son. Well, my son at the time was behavioral. So my guides took my son as the avenue to open me up to spirituality. So I had a reading and she said, your son, he's just very psychic. He just needs beam therapy to get rid of some of his subconscious mess and he'll be okay. And you, well, you need beam therapy, but you're supposed to be a healer and your relationship with your husband isn't very good. But all those things didn't resonate with me. But she did say something in there. She said, I see you healing your dog when you're about 15 years old. I go, yeah, it was a beautiful miracle. She goes, you did that. And I said, she goes, you know how to focus on people and see them at their best. And when you focus your energy on seeing their best, you pull them to that new timeline. It was all very strange what she told me. And when I left focusing on my son. So I take my 4-year-old son to some lady in her house. Dr. Beatty at the time had a 2-year waiting list. So she gave me a practitioner back in somewhere in Pickering. So I took my son, not knowing about energy work. He's sitting across this dining room table. She's doing this thing. 3 sessions, my son was like, still very sensitive, but not out of control. Teachers are like, what are you doing with this kid? I said, energy work, beam therapy. Like, wow, whatever it is working. So he's great now. He gets his sensitivity. He works with it. He's much older now and he's fabulous. So then I went to Dr. B and said, whatever my son went through, it was phenomenal. I need to know about this. And she says, well, you're kind of a mess. I need to work with you. So I mentored and worked with Dr. Beatty. At first she said it would be 10 sessions. Then it was another 10 sessions, then another 10 sessions. I think I had 100 sessions of beam therapy, but within just the first 5, something inside me opened up. But I remember thinking, this isn't working. This isn't working. And then one day I just felt this love for myself that I've never felt. It was that love I felt for everyone else, but I was starting to feel it for me. And that was my healing journey. But it was a very long one. That was in 2009, I believe. And it wasn't until 2020, 2021, where I met this new partner who has really had me focus inside to say, where's that Brenda? Bring her out. That's the girl. That's the girl. Let her come out. And I was fear of being weird, but that's what I always called me, weird. Why are you smiling? You don't fight with people. What's wrong with you? And now I realize weird is okay. So I embrace it. So that's
Wow.
really the story in a nutshell.
That story resonates on a multitude of levels. And one of the things that you said was, and this is, I think, still people struggle with, especially women, is having self-compassion and patience and learning that pouring it into yourself is actually one of the best gifts a woman can give to herself so that she can give to others, so that she can
Exactly.
heal others. And the idea of uh, harnessing that is difficult for women these days because we play different archetypes, and we are expected to be in a warrior position. Sometimes we're expected to be in a mother position, a daughter position, a priestess position. How do you recommend women start to bring self-compassion and patience for themselves? This is
Well,
a
I think,
really, this is a
yeah.
topic that I'm so interested in because I see you and I understand exactly what you're doing. And what's the challenge for women these days?
Well, I remember I had to sit back and realize all the different relationships I had. It was just, I was guided to do this from my guides. How do
Mhm.
I act with my husband? How do I act with my girlfriends? How do I act with my coworkers, my this, my that, my children? And I realized I could be anyone and anything to anybody who wanted. Because I'm empathic. Most, a lot of people are empathic. We can mold to what people want, but I wasn't being what I needed. So, what I realized in all of those aspects of me, there was my authentic self somewhere hiding in there. And what I decided to do over time, it took time, and that's where the patience comes in. I would always say things like, where I am is perfect and evolving. I'm doing better every day, even if it's just 2 minutes better every day. And I would see myself more of as a client or as a other person. I know it sounds kind of weird, but I put myself in two ways. There's me, and then there's Brenda Ferrugia. And Brenda Ferrugia didn't have such a good day today. She was hard on herself. But I would be compassionate because I treated her like I would treat a friend or a client or somebody, a coworker. Because what I realized is I was leaving myself out of the equation.
Wow.
We are all beings of God. And how can we leave ourselves out? Because we're God as well. We're part of this. So we
Yes.
can't fully love everyone and everything if we don't include ourselves in that love.
Yes. Yes. And I think you also, what really tweaked my interest is that actually feeling love and feeling it with viscerally in your body is a very different feeling. It's not good or bad. The feeling is there. Can you try and qualify it with some words to see how that felt for you when that kind of poured into you? What How do you describe that feeling?
It
Because
was
I think people
over,
are looking for this.
yeah,
People, instead of looking externally and looking for validation from this or from something else outside of themselves, how can you describe that to our listeners?
I think the first time I really sat and felt this love for myself, I cried. I cried because I felt so loved. I couldn't explain the feeling. I cried because of all the years I didn't allow myself to feel that and the disconnection I had. But there was, for me, there were waves of energy going up and down my body. I felt like I was being hugged. And for the first time, I felt like I mattered. And it was like, I think I cried for days after that, personally. And that,
Yes.
when we cry, we break negativity, old beliefs. And then you kind of get confused. Who am I if I'm not that person? And it's that awakening process, which can be scary. I actually also, as I start to do work and start to love myself, I was given, um, this is from someone else even before that. I was given an exercise to look in the mirror for 60 days. They said you need 60 days. 21 days is not going to be enough. Look in the mirror for 2 minutes a day and say, Brenda, I love you. And look in your eyes. And they said the day you can do that for 2 minutes without crying or turning away, that's day one. It took me 2 to 3 weeks to get to day one. And that was just all that resistance coming out and all those old beliefs that you're this, you're ugly, you're weird, you're that. And there's so many of us that go through so many things. In the end, it's about chipping away layer by layer and allowing more light and allowing darkness to leave and more light to come in. And just realize it is a journey. And if anyone says there's a magic wand and it all goes away, they're not telling the truth. We all have to meet that dark side of us to overcome it. And once you become that observer of it, that is inside, and there's a very simple way to do it. Just sit quietly and say, I'm going to focus on my thoughts. And then listen to these thoughts. Oh my gosh, I had such a busy mind. You're not good enough. You're going to fail. Just kill yourself. It was endless in my head. And I'm just like, who is saying this? Wow, there's two of us inside. And that was my duality coming to the surface. It kind of freaked me out. But what I realized is if I stay connected to God, the light, the universal energy, that infinite intelligence, that love was the key because I've seen love heal others. So it must be able to heal me.
I'm actually speechless because you explained it so beautifully that it doesn't have to be a complex process, especially for women, which is a passion of mine, and women's well-being as well, is that looking in the mirror at yourself without judgment, with peace and with love is a very simple thing that a woman can do every day before serving her family or her coworkers or leading her department, whatever in what capacity she is working at, and looking at yourself and showing yourself that you are worthy of everything good, that you are worthy of everything that is loving and kind and peaceful. And this is not a pipe dream. People might say, oh, you're playing with unicorns. Life is hard. Yes. But you know what? It's a choice, right? And you choosing, and another word you actually, which was so beautiful, was that you were playing with that duality. And then you said, no, no more. You stopped listening. And how did you flip that switch off?
It just became an awareness to say, what is it in me that dislikes me so much? And if I'm a part of God, then this can't be true. And I was blessed to have guides talk to me and you
Yes.
say, now you got it. Listen to us. And I'm going to say for me, I always felt the love come in from the right side, kind of here on the back of my head, right side. And then the negativity would come in from my left side, or I could feel it in the different. So I actually felt like I was two people within me. And it was actually scary when I realized that because I'm just like, wow. And then I realized any decision that some people will make fun of me and say, oh, you made so many wrong decisions in your life. I said, no, those were all blessings. Those are the experiences I need to go through to wake up. Also, when I work with clients, they love how much trauma I went through. They love all the obstacles I had to go through to become who I am because I said, you know what, it makes them, it's real. And I'm not embarrassed to say I've been to the lowest of the low where I want to jump off a cliff, but I'm on the other side of it. And I love life every day and I bless the challenges that I had. But when you're in them, they're so real, right? So you never give up on yourself. I always tell clients, never, just people, never give up on yourself. Even if you only did 2% better today, or maybe you didn't do good at all. You just start right now. I'm going to restart. Don't wait till tomorrow to restart. You know, when people break a diet, oh, I'll just eat better tomorrow. No, once you notice you went off, right now, restart. Every second can be a restart.
Yes. And you're actually tapping into something so profound, because when you can switch off the mind, and the duality of mind and heart happens all the time. This is necessary for healing because the dark teaches and the light guides you, right? But you have to learn. I had to download the other day a channel before going to bed. It was so late, but and then there was this message that came through, and I'm writing it down. And then I said, okay, now I can go to bed. But it's similar to your stories that, the shadows are there. They're going to chase you. The shadows are going to chase you until you turn around and say, okay, I see you now. I'm learning. I understand, but you're not going to consume me. I am going to choose me first, and I'm going to choose myself now. And if I fall down, I'll choose myself again. If I fall down again, I'll choose myself again and again and again. And when you were talking, your eyes are lighting up, which is so beautiful because you can see how awareness works for somebody who is on this path of healing. And we all are. Though I guess the challenge is right now is that, are we going to give ourselves permission to heal? And I think this is a big issue as well, like how people get stuck. No, you're not stuck. Give yourself permission. Move out of your head and into your heart.
Yeah. You
Yeah,
know, there's two things that came up when you were talking. One, meditation is just teaching us awareness, right?
sure.
It's learning how to conquer, or not conquer, but learn how to use your brain for your positive, in a positive way instead of a negative, right? Our brain is so powerful. Our thoughts are so powerful. So learning to meditate was so frustrating for me. People saying, "Oh, meditate for 15 minutes." 15 minutes seemed like a lifetime. When I started, it was actually about 14 seconds I could keep my own thought without something coming in.
Yeah.
So I developed my own meditation thing because it was the only way that I could do it. And when I hit 20 seconds, I was so proud of myself. So I worked my way up from 20 seconds to 30 seconds to 40 seconds,
Yes.
eyes open first, then closing eyes. Now I can meditate for 3 hours and I'm in bliss until when I come back. But people say, how do you do that? It's like going to a gym. You don't go pick up the biggest weights. You have to train yourself and
Mhm.
have patience all along the way. The other thing is negative beliefs. I've worked with these so much. I'm so fascinated with it. Negative beliefs have their own way of being very deceptive and tricky. And if they don't use one way, they're going to use something else. They cause fear, confusion, doubt. Why should I move forward? Oh no, it's better to stay here because it's safe, even though I don't like it. But it's that courage, that connection with yourself that will inch you forward and forward. And I know there's people that have broken through a belief system once in their life. And it was a scary thing, but they did it. Well, how many times does the universe or God or your higher self have to show you you've done it once before, you came out okay? Why not do it again? So sometimes we need 30 permission slips to do it 30 times before we realize it's safe to do that. But it's okay. You be patient with yourself. It's like a forest. A forest gets burnt down, stepped on, cut down, abused. And what does it do? It gets back up and it grows. So you
Yes.
get back up and you try again. You get back up and you try again. And sometimes there's failure, but you look at that failure. What did I learn from it? Every experience to me is exciting. It's a challenge. What did I learn from it? What did that person show me back? How did I react to that? And I was like, wow, I could have done better. But that's okay. The universe is going to give me that experience again to try again. And you
Wow.
just work through it and be patient and loving.
I love it. And you're talking, it's such at a human level. When people talk about meditation, they think it's some outward, odd type of activity, but you can give yourself a little grace. And even me, I started 5 seconds, Brenda, 5 seconds. And then I said,
Oh,
forget this. Yeah. And then I was very hard on myself. I wasn't
yes.
patient.
Yeah.
I've developed patience over time with myself. With others, I'm a saint, but with with myself, it's taken time. And to actually feel safe, to allow myself. This word safety came up in your when you were speaking. The word safety is so important and can throw people off because if they don't feel safe, they're going to stay clamped in and
Yeah.
they're going to shut themselves down. But, and this is where I wanted to lead you into the next question. When you want to feel safe, how can people tap into their higher selves, their higher being? in order to help them along their journey. Because this journey, you know, and you and I both know, is not easy. And not everyone is aware, not everyone is ready, but we're always, and I love what you said, you're inching forward, no matter you like it or not, you are inching forward. How can we develop this safety using our higher selves?
Well, one thing is our higher self is always talking to us. We're just not always able to listen. So there's two things that are coming through here. One, before people meditate, because people say if I meditate and I do something or I go, it's scary. Put yourself in either a diamond, a bubble, an octahedron of light with the intention. I'm going to allow myself to feel what I feel, but I am so connected to divine light. Use the words that resonate with you, to love, to God's love. I'm protected. So I know I'm safe. So I'm going to go into this knowing I'm in safety. Intention is everything. But I want to give an analogy of the higher self. Pretend you're on a boat. Well, let's say you're on a boat and you're scuba diving. Now, your higher self is the captain of the boat. It's going to stay on the boat and it's going to make sure it's going to give you direction. So now you're going deep down into the depths of the sea. The further you go down, you're not seeing the light, right? It gets darker and darker. You don't know which way's up or down or forward, but your higher self is telling you, go right, avoid that rock. But the further you are in the darkness, in reality, in your own illusion, you're not hearing. So what do? We bump into the rock. We fall into the hole. But it's not that your higher self isn't guiding you. It's a captain of the ship. It sees everything. It knows exactly where you are. It knows where you want to go. But as you start to trust yourself and start to try to listen to that faint call in your heart, that impulse, you'll start to come to the surface where it's less hard to hear. And then it'll say, watch out for the shark. And you'll turn away and go this way. And it's your higher self is always guiding you to your next best thing. But I know people say, but I'm so far deep down, I can't hear. Well, here's an exercise for someone who's never heard their higher self or ever felt it or don't think they have, although they probably have. You sit quietly and you think of something, just sit quietly and just feel your body. Think of something you don't like. And you'll feel your body doing something like it's either tensing in the solar plexus or your tummy or your throat hurts or you get a feeling that you don't like. Now, then think of someone or something that you love and feel how relaxed your body gets. You might get tingles at your neck. You might get a warmness in your heart. That's you feeling your higher self. And you can first feel that maybe through your body. Some people are more, they can feel more, but also you can feel or hear the thoughts in your head because we're all very different. So you want to know, how do I feel when I'm thinking about something negative? That's fearful. How does my body feel? But now I'm going to think about something that's loving and good. How does my body feel? And then you can start to read your body. So when you're walking into a room and you get that feeling, okay, why am I feeling this? Or you're feeling light about it. Oh, why am I feeling this? So it's starting that communication. It's always talking to you. Your higher self loves you. It's you calling you to you. But it's how are we listening? Simply saying, I wish to listen to my higher self better, or every day I'm getting better and better at listening to my higher self, actually opens the door, gives you permission to do so. It's when we use words, this is too hard, I can't do it, it's never going to work for me. You're just closing the door because the universe will always support what you ask. So you want to be very clear and conscious of what you're asking for. Every day, my body's healing. Every day, I'm feeling better. My connection to my higher self is getting better. I'm doing the best I can. I'm important. I'm beautiful. I'm strong. Use those words instead of saying, I can't do it. I'm not good at it. You are good at it. You just have to remember how good you are.
Wow, that is such a, oh, wow. I'm learning and healing even in this podcast. I really love you. You're amazing. I love
Well, it's
what you
funny
have to
because
say.
my guys are actually working on you. The funniest thing, and I realized this in the last few years, is whoever I speak with, no matter if it's in a group or what, they just come in and they're working. I was working with this one gentleman, but he was actually my brother bought me a session with him. He goes, it'd be really cool for you to talk with them, and he was giving me, talking through with me, and he goes, "Are you healing me right now? I feel like my eye's being worked on." I said. You gotta go. He goes, oh no, thank you, because I was having a problem with my eye, and as we're working, I go, you're paying for the session, but I'm getting it back. I go, yeah, it just happens naturally. They just go and do whatever the person needs at that time.
Absolutely. And how amazing is that when and you're hitting on something so profound as well, is that when you're doing the inner work and you meet people that might need you consciously or subconsciously, something happens. There's an exchange, there's an energetic exchange. Your guides are coming in, you're channeling messages. I do that a lot. And sometimes, even for me, when I get a message and I just kind of say it, and the person says, well, thank you. I really needed to hear that. And I love the communication piece because I love teaching people and helping people to hear and listen to what needs to be heard, the messaging, right? And it's not high level language. It's just, yeah, this morning I heard your soul's on time. Your soul's on time. I wrote it down. I have 1,000 sticky notes as you do. So to get these messages across to people who want to heal it and want to hear it and heal it as well. And so it's when you meet someone, tell me a little bit more about how you use your guides to heal others. Uh,
All right. So
yes.
let's just say I love doing this in the grocery store. So I always put myself in that really high vibration. So I'm bringing in divine light and sending it out. And I love walking through there and just sending it out and see the people who run away from me or the people that
Yes.
gravitate. And really, in those instances, what's happening is the light that we hold is actually dissolving some of the resistance around them without them even knowing it, but it's their higher self that's allowing it. I cannot impose my energy that I bring in on anyone. I only can make it available. It's up to their higher selves to take it. But people who generally are taking it subconsciously and healing will give me a smile or get closer to me. So I've always played with that for many, many years. But when I'm working with a client one on one, what happens is I'm really getting into a zone for them. Brenda Ferrugia, I'm kind of getting out of the way. I'm not going to let my mind or my thoughts, I'll see the person. They can be very sick. They can be emotionally. I'm not looking at that. I'm looking at them on a timeline of pure health and happiness. And then these beings of light come through. I have my core beings of light, but sometimes I have extra ones that come in based on the person's issues, or, more of a specialist will come in and they'll work with the person's higher self to release them from negative thoughts, negative energies, traumas, beliefs. Sometimes a little bit of 1,000 little things leave. Sometimes an actual entity leaves. I do exorcisms with love. A lot of clients don't even know that's happening, but they'll be like, something just left and I just feel so giddy and happy inside. And I'm just like, yeah, that's the power of love. It's the frequency of love. So when I'm in that state and I'm holding the space, it's really, I have no expectations of what the client's going to, get from it, because it's up to the client where they are on their divine journey, what they're ready to release. So sometimes we get miracles and sometimes we get gradual healings, and it's perfect and divine for everyone. And that's why I do not put on my website, this happened or stage 4 cancer went away, because that just gets people like, oh, yes, it can happen. But if it doesn't happen, don't beat yourself over the head, because some people have illnesses for that learning. They're beautiful. And some people have those miraculous healings because they're ready to. So we're meeting them at where they're at. So whatever happens in a session, I don't take responsibility for it, because sometimes it's miraculous and sometimes it's gradual, but it's not me. It's the it's a co-creation of healing, really.
Absolutely. And again, that co-creation is, I think in Western medicine, there's a disconnect, right? Um, there is a place for Western medicine and looking at Western medicine, but then integrating it with energy medicine, I believe is extremely, extremely valuable. When I was very ill, I integrated the holistic healing for myself. That's where I fully embraced my healing qualities in order to survive and to
Hmm.
choose a higher timeline of how you said it, pure health and happiness. But it takes darkness to see it. And yes, and to see those gifts that came through when I scaffolded a holistic journey around myself so that I could continue on my timeline and learn from the darkness, which it was a big, big learning, which was what was the learning? Self-care and self-love. That's
Hmm.
what was the learning. And it just hit me on the head. It just said, nope, this is why you have this. This is where you are going, and we're going to heal this. We're going to heal this together. And this is the integration of the holistic spiritual healing and Western medicine. How do you see that in the future? How do you see, or have you seen it now?
Yeah.
How can we teach people that it's okay to go to see the doctor, but then also tap into a higher consciousness, a higher self to guide you and to embrace healing in that way? What is your thoughts on that?
Well, I think they do go hand in hand personally, and I
Yeah,
think it is coming to the forefront more and more than ever before.
yeah,
Always support my clients on whatever methods they choose. And let's say they're going through chemo. I say, well, energy work, even Wellspring, I used to volunteer there.
yeah,
And they really push the holistic,
they
the
do.
Reiki sessions, things like that,
Mm,
because they get it. And let's say, you know, there's the belief that chemo is going to work, but we all know that chemo has some negativity towards it. So why not use that beautiful, loving energy, which you can tap into, have a session, and allow this integration and balance. So allow the chemo to do what you feel it needs to do, and then that negativity, let it kind of melt away with the
yes,
love of yourself. So I never judge anyone on what they decide they want to do, but even meditating, just allowing that love to come through, grounding yourself, saying affirmations. There's so many things you can integrate that with. And I believe, like everyone says that, Brenda, you should live in California. That's where that you would blend in so easily, because doctors there will actually tell clients or tell their patients or advise their patients it would be good to get a holistic healer to kind of work with you during this. We're not quite there here, right, in Toronto area.
yes,
My medical doctor used to think I was a little bit crazy the way I spoke, but I still go to the doctor myself, and people say, "Well,
sure.
why do you go?" I said, "Well, you know what? It's always good to get a good checkup, and when everything's great, I feel great. There we go. I know what I'm doing is right." But if I had to use the medical system, I would, because there's a lot of great doctors out there. And
Yes,
integrating and then trusting that they integrate. It's all about belief systems, right? So there's some, like I grew up Catholic. And what did my dad used to say? Oh, you're gonna go to hell or purgatory for doing energy work because you're not supposed to do it. And I used to tell him, Dad, I don't believe in that. I don't believe in those beliefs. I believe God loves all of us and we're all connected. And if sending love and light upsets your belief system, that's your belief system, not mine. It's
wow.
just learning who you are, being strong in that, and knowing that you deserve it. One other thing that's coming to me right now is, I do group healings on Tuesday nights.
Okay.
Why I did a group healing here when I opened up this place, and we had people come in. And my partner, who's very in tune and can see things, we're doing this group healing, and as this blue light and purple light was coming through, what he noticed is it was capturing everyone. So group healing, so we're all adding our love in there, right? And then as it goes out, we all start to receive. What he could see is who was in the receiving mode, allowing that light to come back, and how many could not receive. He goes at the end of that healing session, he says, You know, all of you were able to give love. I saw the energy flowing from all of you. But when it came time to start receiving it, only about 30% of you in this room accepted the love. The rest of you just stopped it. And
And
he visually saw that. And it was quite beautiful. So when I work with clients, what the first thing I do is get them into a receiving mode. Because why are we doing this session if you're not going to receive it? So, I have them say things like, I give permission to heal. I give permission to connect with myself, those types of things. Because then they're in this, I'm open to receive. I may not understand it, but I'm open to receive what's in my highest best. And once they go into a receiving mode and the energy starts to flow, you can feel them actually accepting it, right? Which is really lovely.
which lays the case for women, especially. We are not always in receptive mode when we are wounded, right? Most of us will give. We have no problem as women giving and looking after others, doing things for others, serving, people pleasing. We have no issues with that. The issue is, and that's where the disconnect is. This is where women, especially, and men too, there's nothing wrong, men do the same thing, but
Yes, there
and
are. Yes,
yes.
they are. Yeah.
Um, the idea of a woman getting into a receptive mode is a bit of an anomaly, because what do you mean? I don't want this. There's a worthiness that comes in. We have forgotten that we are worthy of it first, and we are worthy of self-care and compassion and love. And then once that heals, and then you can have that ability to be receiving of loving energy and frequency and higher vibrations, because this will only help amplify the woman's place in the world, and the woman's, and empowering her to bring her divine feminine frequency out into the onto others as well. By divine feminine frequency, I'm referring to creativity, love, connection, community, a lot of the stuff that you already do, right? The idea of a man being in receptive mode. Can you dig a little bit more into that? Because I've always been passionate about women, and we love the idea of the duality, the men and the women as well, right? Can you dive a little bit into that and how?
Sure. What's coming to me actually is when I work with a client, I see them as a divine being. So I don't actually see them as male or female, just so you know. I
Okay.
see them for who they are. And
Yes.
when a person, an expression of yourself comes in and you're empathic, male or female, what happens is we are taught out of being who we are because of our sensitivity. People will feel that sensitivity within us and mold us and train us out of our gifts. Do as I say, do this, do that. So we learn to please. A had to please program is a very deeply ingrained program, generally come from your childhood, where you can have three siblings, two males, a female, and let's say the sensitivity, when the empathic one's the female and one of the males, those two will have the same problems growing up, giving and had to please. Whereas the other one that wasn't empathic usually copies the parent that's more of the narcissist, the taker. So our disposition coming in, then we're seeing a family dynamic, and most families are dysfunctional. So we will gravitate towards one or the other. So empathic children end up becoming the pleasers, which then brings that pattern of behavior that you're speaking of, giving. Yes. And then we might have a sibling in our house that grows up very differently in the same, because their disposition is different. So I don't see male or female, but we are all, and I see it on both sides, but we all can heal. And how we heal is to heal those trauma wounds. I believe healing comes from breaking the belief systems we were given, from healing the traumas. And sometimes there are moments in time that are exaggerated. Like it could be phenomenal abuse someone received. But sometimes it's just a slap in the face or a word or a phrase that hurt their soul. And we branch off into these different aspects of us. We have these soul fragments or moments of time that, if they're not healed, they get bigger and bigger. And all they know is trauma and sadness. And here I am trying to live a life and reach my goal. But if I have all these subconscious, these energies, these aspects of me that need to heal, it's very hard for me to feel love, because there's a part of me from age 3, there's already part of me from age 4, from 17, that are so hurt, that are pulling me into the drama, that you're not good enough. So as we heal layer by layer, these aspects of us start to come back, and we start to feel more of ourselves. And that's where beam therapy saved my life, because I had a lot of trauma and I was not sure who I was. I had a lot of branches taken off of me. And as I started to heal my subconscious, my thoughts, my beliefs, layer by layer, I started to become more whole, more connected. And then that self-love comes in. So whether you're male or female, I get it. There's this whole push towards, and I love it. I love women. I love strong, empowered women. I love women with compassion that can stay in their power, but still be very kind and loving. And I love that men are starting to be drawn into this energy as well, because we're really starting to heal at our core. And when you're all that is, you're everything and nothing all at the same time. You know everything and nothing all at the same time. There's this balance. And as you live through balance with love and light, your inspiration, your creativity, your excitement, that's what brings you to that next step, which brings you to more excitement. And then that deserving. It's that really, when you're in that dark, deep sea, you feel like, I'll never get out of it. But you keep inching up and inching up, and soon you'll see that surface with the light coming in, and you'll get connected more, and you'll start to do those positive things that bring more positivity. Because no matter what you get told to do from within you, do this, make the wrong choice, you know what? We learn from that. And the more we choose positive choices and say yes to our divinity, the more our life starts to open up. But just be kind, compassionate, let go of the embarrassment and shame. I get a lot of people, I'm so embarrassed, I'm so shameful for what I did. That was an old version of you. You didn't know any better. And the only reason you feel regret and shame and embarrassment is because you're a new version who sees what you did. Let it go. I was there to teach
Wow.
you. Just let it go.
Wow. Can you repeat that one more time? The only reason people are feel shame and guilty is because they are looking back. Can you say that one more
Yeah, they're
time?
looking back at their old version, because we're changing all the time. So if you suddenly feel embarrassed, regret, shame for something you did or allowed happen in your life, that's a blessing, because that's just an indication that you're now a different version, where you can look back at that older version and say, how did Brenda do that? How did she let people treat her that way? It's because I now have more consciousness to realize that. But you take that as an indicator that you've changed, but don't harp and just stay in that to say, wow, I'm changing. I let it go. And I always say, thank you, Brenda, the old version of me that did some really embarrassing things. Thank you so much for allowing me to go through that, because you've brought me to who I am today. And the more consciousness, the higher consciousness we get, we're actually going to see there's more choices, because everything is just a choice. We would call it a bad choice, a good choice, a mediocre, neutral choice, but they're all choices. But as you become more clear and loving of yourself, you're going to make those positive choices more often. But when you're in a darker place, you're not in alignment, you're in a lower consciousness, sometimes we say yes to those bad choices. Why? Because we are. It is what it is, but we learn from them.
What is, before we're almost wrapping up here, what is one piece of advice you can give people today who are just stuck?
All right. Right now, we are in a very deep process of healing on the planet. So we're actually in the darkest of the dark, and we're in the lightest of the light. So we have that duality. A lot of people say, sometimes I'm here, sometimes I'm there, sometimes I'm here. Be kind and patient for yourself. Take that deep, so take that time to reconnect with yourself every day, whether it's breathing deeply, whether it's saying affirmations, at minimum 15 minutes a day. And for those people who are too busy, break it up. 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes in the
Yes.
afternoon, 5 minutes in the evening.
Yes.
Appreciate what you have. Look at what you did that was good in your day. And if there wasn't, just make a note. I'm going to be better tomorrow. Never give up and be gentle with yourself and allow the gradual healing. If we heal too quickly and our consciousness went from this and it's going bigger and bigger and bigger, too quickly, we would be so confused. We wouldn't know who we are. So your higher self is guiding you. So follow that inspiration in your heart and then forgive yourself when you didn't do a good job. It's fine. Because where you are is perfect and evolving.
Wow. That is an amazing ending to I could talk to you for 4 more podcasts. Um, what initiatives are you currently working on? What do listeners need to
So
know about you
when
now?
yeah, so when COVID came about, I lost my practice. No one was allowed in my
Oh,
office, and
mm,
I know distance healing works and things like that. So my guides had me do a online meditation healing for clients, which then started 3 years ago in 2020, and we've opened it up. So now it's something I offer on YouTube live on every Tuesday night. And so anyone can join, whether they understand what we're doing or not, just come in with an open heart and ready to heal. So they can join in. There's a 30-minute talk, and then I go into a healing session, but the energy is flowing all the time. The other thing is, with that, I do have a podcast as well. It's called Coffee Time with Brenda and Mary. We started it as a way to answer a lot of my client questions because I keep repeating myself and repeating myself.
sure.
So my friend, who's a little more skeptical about energy work, she keeps me more grounded and asks those questions that the basic people want to hear because I can
Yes.
go on off at a tangent, as you can see. So that's available on all platforms now. We started off on YouTube. So they're video on YouTube, and then you can just listen on all those other platforms. And then I do offer free consultations. And if someone just wants to have a quick chat, they can book a free consultation. And generally, during that, they get a little mini healing and they're like, wow, how did that happen? That just happens as I'm talking. So, and then I do corporate wellness, which I love because it goes to
Yes.
the masses. And I come from corporate. So, although I have a vast knowledge and I can talk very out there, I can talk very simple to anyone and anything because, in the end, love is that common frequency that can be woven into any conversation.
Absolutely. And that's an amazing way to put it. It's such a simple way to look at it because it boils down to love, doesn't it?
Yeah, most
Um,
powerful energy on earth, the
most
frequency of love.
powerful energy on earth. Absolutely. How can people reach you?
I'm at sobrilliant.ca. That's my website, and there's ways to reach me. My number's there. You can email me at brenda@sobrilliant.ca or info@sobrilliant.ca. I'm pretty easy to get a hold of. You can find me on YouTube. My handle's at sobrilliant. I'm on all those things. It's hard for me to do a lot of that stuff because I'm busy, but I do my best. We also have a retreat center out in Haldimand County, Ontario. We have a labyrinth and it's beautiful. It's very powerful. It has beings in there that help you heal. And if you just want to come and use the labyrinth for a meditative walk, that is something we offer as well.
Absolutely amazing conversation, enlightening, healing, scary, beautiful, loving conversation today, Brenda. And we are very, very happy that you joined us today. And for our listeners, please note of how you can get in contact with Brenda. And again, my name is Roshni Sharma Fleming. I'm the CEO and founder of Stillfire Healing Inc., and where we always say, spend your energy wisely. Thank you very much for tuning in and look forward to the next episode.
Thank you. That was beautiful.